for all of her work and efforts in putting this together for us. I just can't tell you guys enough how much effort went into it. So thank you, Anne, and I'll hand it over to you to open our last session.
Oh, thank you for that. I appreciate hearing that. And I'm glad that everyone's here today. And I'm excited to let you know that it's the fifth and final session in this series. So good morning. I'm Ann Nygren. I'm a transition teacher coordinator with the District Office of Transition Services. I'm happy that you took the time out of your Saturday to tune in. Today is the finale session of the Saturday Transition Institute, and today's theme I'm really excited about. It's financial literacy, and it's our goal that by the end of the session today, that you are equipped with financial literacy resources and tools to put in that toolbox that you have, and we're really happy that you're here. So as you saw in the flyer that was shared, our Saturday series included 5 different Saturdays, each with its own theme. They run from 9 to noon, and that time is divided among 3 different seminars. And in the next week, all of the different recordings from each of the different sessions will be available on MyPLN. If you just search Transition Institute, you'll see each of those sessions there. And as a special treat for those of you that attended the sessions live, and if you were present for 90% or more of the minutes of the session, you should be receiving an email from MyPLN that will grant you automatic access to that certificate and a copy of that of the link to the recording so that you can go back and refer to it if you'd like. If you attended less than 90%, that's fine as well. You would just go into MyPLN, search Transition Institute, and see all of the materials there that way. So far in this series, we've learned about self-determination, student-centered transition planning, employability skills, cultural awareness, and then today, financial literacy. So for today, we'll be hearing from experts in the world of resources for financial literacy. Today's presenters are representing Bank of America, EverFi, and the California Department of Education. The seminar is being recorded and will eventually be available through MyPLN, as I mentioned. Closed captioning is enabled, so go ahead and click the CC button should you want. And throughout today, should you have any questions, please ask using the Q&A. And so that you can plan accordingly, we won't be taking official breaks, but rather a super short pause after each presenter. In the chat box, I will share a resources organizer that has the slide decks, the presenter contact info, and the resources for all 3 of the presentations today. And also included is a link to the feedback survey, which would be really great if you can fill out because we do appreciate reading through those so that we can better our practice for the future. So last, thank you again for being here. Your attendance means a lot. And I would like to introduce our first presenter to share about the Better Money Habits by Bank of America. We have Paula Aguilera. She manages the electric vehicle strategy for the Bank of America. She has a passion for empowering others with financial knowledge and is one of the 3 Better Money Habits co-chairs for the Ventura Santa Barbara market. And go ahead, Paula, you should have access to share your screen. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Anne. Good morning, everyone. 104 people dedicated to learn about financial literacy. This is super exciting for us. I'm going to share my screen. So let me go ahead and do that. Let's just double check. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, great. All right. So welcome, everybody. So let me just go ahead and go into this slide. And I think one of the tips that we always want to give our presenters, especially if you're doing this in the virtual Zoom setting, I definitely want to not show up with like a cat filter on my screen, right? Like that famous cat video in the pandemic, but it's also very important to test the system. And full transparency, I am presenting on a bank computer from Bank of America. And you can imagine that the firewall is, very high level. And so I had to come in 10 minutes early, make sure it was all working. It took a few minutes to log in. So fingers crossed that it all goes pretty smoothly. But again, always when presenting, it's always good to come prepared and prepare for the virtual presentation or even in person. So I wanted to talk a little bit about Better Money Habits, which is a system or so to speak that Bank of America promotes in terms of financial literacy. And just to give you a quick overview of the agenda, we're just going to talk about better money habits a little bit. If I am able to share my web browser, I'll show you how to navigate within the site so that you can pull any sort of materials that you might want to use or leverage for your classes. And then we'll talk a little bit about the lessons learned, presentation tips, and then I'll give you an idea of what a live presentation will look like. Okay? All right. So about better money habits. So this is really focused on education and awareness. I think first things first, we're not trying to sell our products. This is very much part of our mission at the bank is, we want to empower our clients to build their preferred future, to be financially independent, be financially savvy. And so what this Better Money Habit system has is your free, easy to understand tools, right? We do have resources in English and Spanish. I mean, we're in Southern California, Spanish is always very much needed in the community. And then we have a lot of topics that we cover, the most common topics I would want to say. So getting your savings started, budgeting, credit is a huge one, retirement planning, or if you're ready to make those bigger purchases like buying a car or owning a home, we have curriculum for that as well. Millions of people access this knowledge every year. So there is a self-serve component, but there's also within Bank of America, we have associates who are dedicated to delivering financial services. So even though this is more of a train the trainer, empowering you to deliver these lessons, there are thousands of employees or within Southern California who are willing to come to your schools, to the community and deliver the message. All right, so first within the space, and I'll at some point show you in the web browser, we have what's called an education resource center. So when you go into the site, there's going to be a little hamburger menu on the upper right-hand corner. And this is where you'll be able to get lesson plans. And within these lesson plans, and let me just say, these lesson plans actually are catered to not only just your audience, or not just based on the topic, but also your audience. For example, we have the list of how our curriculum is categorized or grouped together. Some of it is based on the milestones in people's lives, such as paying for college, but also we have material that might be catered to a particular population. For example, if high school students is the population that we're presenting to, we have curriculum specifically catered to high school students. Just last week, we were at high school, but we were actually delivering the financial literacy lessons to students who had some sort of learning disability. So we had the opportunity to mix a little bit of the high school students with a little bit of the intellectual disability curriculum, and we were able to deliver these lessons. So let's keep on going. So this gives you also, there's also a self-serve option. So let's say you gave this presentation, students want to learn more, they want to go in and navigate. We do have the opportunity to navigate on our own. So you can go into Better Money Habits, and then you'll see here, if you just wanted to browse, or you want to identify what particular milestone you're facing, you can actually go in and select reading materials. And they're very easy to digest reading materials. Some of these resources, if you see here, Gen Z, Financial Matters, all these resources here are typically about 2 to 4 minute articles that you can read. So you can digest in little bits, especially for those who have short attention spans, which I admit I do have sometimes. You are able to get the resources here. Also, this is from your hamburger menu that I mentioned. Like I said, your priorities, you can personalize your content based on whatever you're looking for. There's also a spend analysis tool. I decided to put in my own spend analysis. I wanted to do my own analysis here. So you can put in your zip code, your age range, how many people in your household, and kind of check yourself against what people are spending in all these different categories. Every color here, you have an opportunity to check here. For example, some of it might be groceries or eating out or paying for college or paying for housing. No surprise, in my zip code, the amount dedicated to housing is probably a little bit more than someone in another place in the United States. However, so you have this spend analysis tool. So really easy to use interactive tools. This is sponsored by Bank of America. So Bank of America does offer some other tools as well. This will take you to the Bank of America website. Again, very much about what your priorities are here on this life plan, and then another spending and budgeting tool. So very easy to use, to navigate, etc. Let me see if right now might be a good time just to jump in. Yes, let me see if I can share. I'm going to try to share my my internet. Can I share my internet? Let me see if it just lets me do my screen. Advanced.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think if you do your the full application instead of just the PowerPoint, if you do the full.
Yeah, let me try.
Or if you already have that. Yeah.
Let's see if this works.
Yeah.
Are you able to see my browser?
Yeah, it says Flagscape.
Perfect.
And then,
all right, so let's go in here. Better Money Habits. .bank. Can I spell this morning? Happy Saturday. So bettermoneyhabits.bankofamerica.com. Okay. So accessible, right? So let's say I want to, well, here you'll see here, there's some articles already. If I want to look at savings and budgeting, let me just go into all. And so you'll have very tough here, but as I mentioned, creating a budget, how to manage your bills, a step-by-step guide. These aren't necessarily in PowerPoint presentations, but this is an example of your self-serve option. 7 steps to stay financially fit. Sometimes I'll incorporate these articles into slides. I can create slides based on this if I want to use something in addition to what is available. So they're pretty quick slides. They're pretty quick things to digest. This was the spend analysis tool, how to save money every day. There's, again, very easy to digest articles here. And there's also videos. In the presentation, and I'll show you, you do have an option to show a video. I always warn people, just make sure that you're able to embed the video in your presentation or make sure that you can hear. So like if I play this video now, can you hear it?
I can't hear it. I cannot, no.
You can, okay. All right. So I won't necessarily play it, but 3-minute videos to show you how you can save money, right? So it talks about making your coffee at home versus Starbucks, or instead of cable, get Netflix, or keep track of how you spend your money. Maybe it's the way that you spend your money, but there's just a number of articles and tips here. So I wanted to go into this hamburger menu here. I call it the hamburger menu. So check out these tools here. Let me just show you here. This was what I was showing you on the slides. You have your spend analysis tool. If you go through your priorities, just go in here really quickly. There we go. So just starting out, if we're talking with our high school students, currently a student, I want to build up savings, and I'm also saving for college. I also want to buy a car. I might be moving. I'm starting a new job. So you can select what you want to do here. Let's say learning a new skill. And then it's going to cater based on answers, various articles that you want to talk about. So you have finances, family, home, work, giving, etc. So all the articles are going to be provided based on what you're searching for. It kind of customizes your search. Now, here for the check out these tools, let's go back here. This Educational Resource Center. So as I mentioned, we have already pre-packaged decks that you can leverage. And each deck or each category obviously is either dedicated to your audience or to the milestone that you might want to talk about. So if we have our high school students here, and you don't have to stick with just the high school students, you can also, leverage other stuff. It will show you what the decks look like here, the presentations. They usually come in a 1 hour section, but then those can be broken down into about 15 minutes. And when we do 1 hour sessions, we usually only do 1 to 2 sections of this deck. The reason being, one, we want folks to digest the information, first of all. And so we don't want to overload anyone with information. And this is true for all audiences. And next, you want to be able to foster conversation and about the specific topic. So we might talk about smart credit moves and how do banks work, et cetera, et cetera. You can select what you want to do here. And then the great thing about this that I really like is that when you download the materials, and you'll see that we also have it here in Spanish. So if I were to download these materials, and you can download them as well, notice that there was no login required. If I open the file, actually, I don't think you'll be able to see it because I'm just sharing my browser, but it comes with, and I'll just read it to you, the full lesson plan. It will also break it down into the various sections. So if you're only going to do 2 sections, you can just download those 2 sections. But the great thing is that it comes with full speaker notes. So you don't have to guess about what the message is. You have full speaker notes to go along with the lesson. There's also a PDF version of what we have here. It's like a student financial planner, a student planner savings, but we can actually open the link here. If you wanted to ever print them out, you could do that as well. But let's say we're talking about savings, right? Or budgeting. This is a good budgeting. If you have a computer, you can actually edit the form here and probably print it out. And then your students can actually go in and create their own financial planner here if they're working on their computer. Alternatively, we can print these out. These are all accessible via the site. We actually order these to hand out when we have our what we call our champions, who are the associates who want to do the presentation. We would bring these and provide the handouts. And then it really just helps, really put give the activity to go with the lesson, right? So I'm going to navigate out of here. And then there's another worksheet here. So it comes with worksheets. It also comes with videos. Again, videos are great. You just have to make sure that when you present them that, you can hear them, or they're embedded in your PowerPoint, that you have downloaded them to your computer so that you can present them. But they actually do have some great videos as well. Okay. And are we waiting till the end for questions? I just want to see if there was any questions, just kind of do a check if there are any questions.
Either way, it doesn't matter. Yeah. Take a pause. Questions.
The chat is open, so people can feel free to put their questions in the chat, and we'll monitor that for you, or in the Q&A as well.
Now I can go back to sharing my deck. Okay, I'll go back to. So the website is bettermoneyhabits.bankofamerica.com. So as far as presentation tips, and you're all educators, obviously you guys are presenting every single day, but we provide everything. We provide word for word speaker notes if you wanted them, but you want to be flexible and be able to cater to your audience, right? So be flexible. If you ever bring other presenters in, it's always nice to bring some experienced presenters in with some new presenters so that they can learn from each other. Definitely prepare and practice just as if you were going to do your lesson plan. Prepare, look at the speaker notes, think about what you want to say. And I mentioned this at the beginning of the call, and we mentioned this that every time that we present to the community, we're not here to sell Bank of America products. As a matter of fact, when we talk about being financially independent and finding the solution that's best for you, we're pretty adamant in advising our audience and our community that they need to shop around. They need to check which bank accounts, which loans are the best for them. So I want to make sure that I get that message across, that we're not trying to sell anything. Again, it's all about empowering the community and the audience to be financially independent. So style, it's all, about being yourself. Again, not sticking to the words, presenting with energy. I had a cup of coffee this morning. I was excited to be here. I'm excited to see the number of participants that are here today. And of course, I don't want to say, well, you need to open a bank account, because that's not going to be very exciting. So make sure to bring the energy. I actually do like to engage the audience, and I don't know if there's like an option to put in the chat here. I do want to know, like, where is everyone located? I know LAUSD is so big, but where is everyone located? Or who is your audience? If you don't mind typing into the chat window, I would be very interested to see, where are you located and what grades are you teaching? And that'll give me a pause from speaking for a minute. Would that be in the question and answer, actually, if I said that?
No, the chat's perfect for that. It'll be much faster, and then everyone can see each other's. If they post it in the question and answer, then they can't see it until we've answered the questions. So it looks like you definitely have some people in the chat. And I'll speak for everyone who's in the chat right now. Everyone on this call is supporting staff in grades 9 through 12. Okay, great. For some reason, I can't see the chat, but that's probably just because it may be that your settings, if you go to the bottom and click on the chat button, it should hopefully pop up to your right, hopefully, but it depends on your Zoom settings, of course. Yeah, I'll check on it in a little bit. So we usually just use, we've used WebEx for so long here at the bank, and then we just got Zoom. Not even everyone has Zoom at the bank. So I know how to definitely use it on my personal computer, but on the work computer, I never see the chat. So that's something that I need to focus on. Yeah, I have the same problem when using Microsoft Teams, so I'm with you. There was a question earlier in the chat, though, that just asked, how did you navigate to the pages that you were showing before? So you were showing them some lessons, and someone asked, like, how do we navigate? Oh, there's lots of great answers in the chat. I'm sorry you can't see. I'll read them off to you, a couple of them really quick. Someone's teaching at Eagle Rock, but live from Oceanside. We have someone from the east side of LA, Elizabeth Learning Center in Legacy, Panorama High School, Perez Career and Transition Center in the east, someone from CTC West, which is West Side, Resita from Miller CTC. We have another Resita, South LA, Polytechnic High School in the Valley, downtown, Resita, Bell High School, North Hollywood. Got a lot of North representing here. The West Side, CTC West near Fairfax, Lincoln Heights. So we have people from all over the greater
awesome area. And I think I introduced myself, and I do work at Bank of America, and this is always a great one too. If you're presenting to a new audience. So I actually am zooming in from Camarillo, California. I did used to live in Van Nuys, so shout out to the Van Nuys folks right now. And then I also used to live in Culver City, so I'm familiar with the area. We have gone to LAUSD to do some presentations. There is another group of champions that will go to the schools within the LAUSD area. I focus primarily on Ventura and Santa Barbara County, but when it comes to like the Valley, for example, there's always spillover between the two markets since the Valley is much closer to where our office is. My particular office is in Westlake Village. And so many people drive in from the Valley. So we often are doing presentations in the North Valley area. But anyway, thank you. Okay, so all about style, right? So we want to engage the audience, make sure the presentation is conversational. So I know sometimes high school students are hard to engage. And so we bring pens like participation pens, tchotchkes, I think is how they say it, little gifts to really encourage participation. And then we want to ask open-ended questions. For example, what are you saving for? Let's talk about your short-term, your midterm, and long-term goals. And so someone on the short term said they wanted to share, save up for a sweater. And for midterm, someone was talking about they want to save up to go to college, since we were talking to a lot of students who are getting ready and thinking about college. And then, a car or a home for their long-term goals. So really getting them engaged and hearing about how other people are talking about money. I used to be a teller quite some time ago. I was joking in the 20th century, but I think it was actually in the early 2000s. And one of the things that we see in the community is that not everyone has had the opportunity to get some of these basic lessons. I mean, even folks on this call, a lot of us did not grow up where we talked about money or how we saved money or whatnot. But it's really important to have these conversations early. Even just the basics, right? About the different types of bank accounts or how we can start saving and how it's important to have money. Or, with student loans, even a lot of us, have taken out student loans to get our degrees and credentials. So what's the best way to pay those off? How do we minimize the amount of interest we're paying, for example? So, I mean, the conversation about financial independence and responsibility is really a conversation that's to be had at every milestone in life. Okay, so back to the slide. If it works to break up in smaller sections and assign responsibilities to a few people, it probably works. Usually, since I'm doing this one for an hour, I probably should have brought someone with me to do it with me, so I'm not talking for a full hour. It saves your voice, but that might be another reason why you would only want to do 1 or 2 sections of the entire deck, right? Because you want to, again, save your voice, not be talking the whole time, really encourage conversation amongst the group. Okay, let me go to the next one. So as far as opening, breaking the ice for the conversation, now I know where everyone's coming from. I love it. I love to hear the students, the grades that we're talking to. I wonder if everyone here has, I want to actually get this back in the chat. Do you have a typical icebreaker that you use at a networking event? Mine always is, because we live in Los Angeles, where are you coming from? Where are you driving from? So let me know, Jacqueline, if you see anyone start with their icebreakers, or what's an icebreaker that you use with your students to get them talking.
I will monitor the chat for you. Someone did just say, Karina, no one ever had these money conversations with me. So I think that people are feeling like, yeah, these are important conversations to have with students. But does anyone have an icebreaker they'd like to share? I know at our last few regional meetings, we did a number of different icebreakers. One of the ones that resonates with me that we did as a quick one was, which is your favorite pen? So we put up a picture of multiple pens and people had to say, because people all have favorite pens.
Yes.
Yeah.
My favorite with me here. Yes.
So mine is, if you guys can see, this pink pen. I hate to share it because I don't want everyone to buy them and get them sold out, but mine are these pink pens. So Anne wrote this or that. So Anne, I don't know if you want to share more about that, but that's
those that have been at our recent regional meetings, we've been doing them, but it's you put like different preferences. So it'd be like pepperoni pizza, cheese pizza, and then stand on this side of the room if you prefer this, stand on this side if you prefer that. And we did one like a Thanksgiving one where do you prefer the dark turkey or the light meat turkey? Do you call it stuffing or do you call it dressing? Different things like that.
Awesome. And now that we're talking about that, I mean, like this or that, you can even turn this into like a financial game. I don't know which supermarket sweep show it was or something, but you might show like 2 products, or you might show 2 cars, or you might show 2 areas of where people might live. Like, which one do you think is more expensive? I mean, we should probably keep it, or even like when you're shopping in Target, for example, here's a 3-pack of deodorant, here's a 1-pack of deodorant, like which one are you paying more for? So really talking about, being able to use an icebreaker, talk about money at the same time. There's a game that is in this deck at some point where we talk about needs versus wants. And that's a very important topic to really get across to folks, right? Because needs versus wants is a question that I'm always asking myself, like, do I need this pair of shoes? Okay. Do you need shoes? Yeah, we need shoes. We need maybe like a pair of tennis shoes, a couple pairs of work shoes, but do I need this 10th pair of heels? Maybe not. I may not need that. Or what about textbooks? That might be a need, right? Paying for your water bill, that is a need. But there's things sometimes that like go in the middle that, for example, your phone. Do you need a phone? Most often we do need our phone. We have our emails, we communicate this way, we log on to Zoom this way, but do you need the iPhone 14 Pro? I don't know. You don't necessarily need that. That might be more of a want if you're getting the same functionality from an iPhone 12 or something. So that's like another very popular kind of conversation game that we can have with our students. So as far as the main content back here to the slide, incorporate the videos. And I put there, make sure that they work on your setup because they don't always work on the setup, or they do, you just have to, I think, save them to your desktop to make them work. And then make your presentation relevant. I'm not going to talk to high school students about retirement maybe just yet. I might touch upon it. That's important to start thinking about it, but we're not going to start talking about like how much Social Security they might get because we all know that might actually change in the next 20 years. We do offer speaker notes. And again, this is just a guide. It's not, it's not mandatory to read it word for word. In fact, we don't suggest that you read it word for word. It's more to really flow the conversation and then use your real world experiences. We can talk about our students are turning 16, maybe they're going to get a car. I personally have kids. I'm throwing her a birthday party today. I had to decide which jumper, like how much is this party going to cost me today? So that's just some of the conversations, that we can have, for example, in our presentation that we want to weave in. So obviously in person and virtual are the formats that we typically do. We've done formats where you kind of do like a speed table. So if you have multiple instructors or helpers, maybe someone comes and talks to you for a minute about savings and someone wants to talk to you a little bit about budgeting, or we talk about ways to save money so that we can increase our savings and spend less. All right, let me keep on going. Some activities, here are some other games that we can use. So like a true or false, right? Get some points, break into teams. Checking your credit report will hurt your credit score. That's false, actually. You can actually check your credit on 3 times a year for free, going to annualcreditreport.com. Pulling your credit score for like a hard inquiry, like if you're shopping for a home loan or for a car, those might impact your credit score a little bit, but if you're just checking the report online, it shouldn't hurt your credit. Another one is trash kit ball. So again, if you want to turn this into a game, you can, get a wad of paper. If you have a little ball, you can have them answer the question correctly. And if they do, they get a chance to throw the ball. It's like a basketball game. Another one is like Family Feud. If you have that set up, we can break into teams, for example, and answer questions as such. me get down here. This is another activity that we've done before in our presentations. It's called the Bean Game. During COVID, we turned it into the star game, where we had already loaded 25 stars on the screen. And so we worked together to allocate 25 stars or 25 beans if you're in person. So this is actually a budgeting exercise. And you can see that we have different categories that are a part of your budget. And as you decide how you want to spend those 25 beans, correct? So if you want to rent a house of your own, you're already spending 6 of your beans. You may have to sacrifice something like on the food part, not eating all your meals out. You may have to now cook at home and only go out to dinner once a week. So it's a great exercise to really understand or get the message across that, you know, we make a finite amount of money, and so we have to be smart about how we spend it. And sometimes it's really asking ourselves what is important to us. So it's a great way to teach budgeting. Are there any questions? And I was going to show you kind of a typical presentation.
I'm not seeing any questions, so go for it.
Okay. So because we're doing this virtual, and if you want to print out the speaker notes, you can always print them out. On my screen, I'm showing you I'm showing you the slide, but on my other screen, I do have speaker notes that I can put into the slides. This particular one is about budgeting and credit. And so we'll talk about how we want to manage a budget. And so we really first talk about, like, what is a budget? Not a lot of people have budget. I think it's a very low amount, maybe like 37% of people who actually have a budget, but it's really just a way to keep track of our money, correct? And if we have any savings goals or expense goals or whatnot, it really helps us put our thoughts down onto paper. And it doesn't even have to be paper. It can be an Excel spreadsheet. A lot of people do this envelope method where they have an envelope for every category where they put money, and it really helps you decide how you spend money. But without a budget, we're potentially overspending our money, or we may not be able to reach, certain financial goals that we want to reach. So here is an example of knowing your income. So with that, how many of us know how much our paycheck is? Maybe in the chat button, and you can tell me later, Jacqueline, but give me like a thumbs up or a yes if you know exactly how much your paycheck is every 2 weeks, or a no if you don't. And then I see a hand raised. Just want to make sure that wasn't a question, or if there was a question.
Looks like the hand went down, so it may have been a mistake. But
are you getting yeses or nos as far as?
Yeah, I think most people seem to know what their paycheck is, but in fairness, I will say our paychecks don't vary. Our paychecks are pretty consistent for certificated staff because we're considered annualized employees. So they take our salary, they divide them by 12, and we get 12 paychecks. Yeah.
Okay, and so so you guys get paid monthly, and that also varies too. But when we're talking with our students, right, they may not have necessarily their fixed jobs yet, or even though we do have our fixed paychecks, some of us might have, lack of better words, like side hustles or something that we might do on the side that's not necessarily consistent cash flow, but it's important for us to do, to document on a monthly basis, how much money we're bringing in. If your birthday is in March, like this person maybe, or maybe their birthday is in June, how much money did they get? So it's important to really track their income. And so we have I think I showed you one of the spreadsheets that we could use for that. Then the paycheck. So here, for someone who's never owned a paycheck, the whole idea of gross pay versus net pay could be a surprise, right? So we asked the students here, so what do you think? If you work 20 hours a week at $20 an hour, do you think you're going to be taking home $400 that week? Right? And so for people who don't really earn paychecks, they don't know the answer necessarily to that. They're going to think, yeah, we're going to take home the gross pay. And the answer is no. There's a couple things that might come out of there, right? So on section 2, we have our mandatory deductions. There's nothing we can really do about that. We have to pay those. And that's taxes, Social Security, and Medicare. We're giving that to the government. Section 3 are voluntary deductions. So when you work at a job, they give you certain benefits, or they may offer you certain benefits, such as health insurance, 401k for your retirement, some flex spending, or a commuter account. And so those are voluntary. You have to raise your hand and say, yes, I want this money taken out of my paycheck. And then once you have 1 minus 2 minus 3, number 4, your net pay, that's what you're actually going to take home. Right. And so in the speaker notes, you'll talk a little bit about what the percentage is that you're taking out, if they really want to calculate it. But, having that conversation, just income, right? And so then knowing your statistics. If someone can put in the chat, please, what do you think what category do teens spend the most money on? Does anyone want to take a guess? Jacqueline, you want to give me the first answer?
Yeah. So what? Oh, food. We got food, clothing, food, shoes, coffee. I know coffee.
Yes. So it's food. But I don't know if that's just teens, because I think every time I look at my credit card bill, I'm like, dang it.
I know it's
stop eating out.
Makeup, video games, entertainment, food.
Yeah. And some of us, I only look at my credit card bill once a month, once I get the sticker shock of how much I spent each month. But finding a way to document that, knowing your expenses. How do you track your expenses? How do you know how much you're spending on Frappuccinos at Starbucks, right? What can we do to be more aware of what we're spending, right? So then maybe it's this. Here's a budget. How much money do you want to spend on these things? So we've talked about income, but now we're talking about the different types of expenses. We have our fixed expenses. Maybe that's going to be our rent, right? That number, doesn't fluctuate very often, hopefully less often than so. Then we have our variable expenses, right? Well, fixed expenses also can be like your cell phone, your utilities. Variable expenses are going to be electricity or water. Maybe we take 20-minute showers, and after we got our water bill, we're like, we're going to take 5-minute showers now, right? So that we have a little bit more control of, even though we pay it on a regular basis. Then you have things like periodic. I would say clothes and haircuts probably fall under periodic. We sometimes do need to get new clothes, but it's not a recurring expense. And then you have your discretionary, which I would want to say is probably more like getting gifts for folks. Or I'm trying to think what else could be discretionary, or if we wanted to donate money, or in the case of my 2 kids, throwing them a birthday party and getting them gifts. So this is, again, an example of a budget. And so we also have handouts on that Education Resource Center, which is just a layout of a budget. And then folks can really start thinking about their income and their expenses. And then we talk about adjusting your habits. So I use the example of the Starbucks Frappuccinos, or just even getting a regular black coffee from Starbucks. $3, I think, is the cheapest coffee from Starbucks. So now maybe we're moving to making our own coffee. Or when we go into the movies, I am definitely guilty of sneaking food in. So no shame, I'm going to admit it. But when you go to the movies, maybe you're spending close to probably more than $12. That's probably the cost of the ticket now. Or maybe you can decide to go at 11:30 in the morning and get the matinee, which might be slightly cheaper. And then the vending machine, or going out to eat, maybe we can eat at home. So these are just examples of way to adjust your habits. Once you have your income and your expenses documented, here are some changes that you might be able to make. So this is about the needs and the wants game, right? Here are some great examples. So needs, gas, I should put a plug here because I work all in electric vehicles now at the bank. So I'm trying to get away from gas, but gas, we definitely need it to get from point A to point B. We need our clothes, we need to save, we have our textbooks, some wants. Again, some of these are kind of like in the middle. If this was a Venn diagram, shoes, we need maybe a pair of shoes, but do we need 10 pairs of shoes? My husband really loves U2, so he might argue that tickets to go see U2 are a need and not a want. So, you know, the definition of needs versus wants is really a game that we want folks to play in their own heads. And so they can talk a little bit more about looking at wants versus needs when it comes to budgeting. Then we talk about savings. Prioritize yourself. Think small. Think 1% of your paycheck at a time, or increase that 1% every time. See if you can just gradually get there. It's not a race, it's the journey. You want to be slow and steady as opposed to like the hare, the hare and the tortoise, where the hare speeds and then stops. In the end, the tortoise, you know, wins the race. Sometimes you can make this automatic. When you open your bank accounts, you know, you have the option to automatically put, you know, save a certain amount of money into your savings. So again, just talking about ways to start saving. Okay, we have like 13 minutes, so I may want to just kind of like scan through this unless there are any questions. Okay, and just a reminder that, you know, all these decks are on that Education Resource Center under bettermoneyhabits.bankofamerica.com. So credit is also really important for our seniors, because when they start turning 18, we're going to start talking about the pros and cons of credit. What is credit? Again, you have speaker notes to talk about this. It's really the idea of being able to obtain services or goods before actually paying for it. We can talk about the importance of credit scores. Why do we want to use our credit score? We can do it for all this stuff. I have a video here, but it's actually going to pop up my Windows player, so I won't play it now, especially since we have time, only 13 minutes. But it talks about how to build your credit. This is like a 4 or 5 minute video. And then we talk about credit reports and credit scores. So, you know, did anybody know that 35% of your credit score is determined by your payment history? So it's very important to pay those bills on time in a timely fashion. The balances that you owe is actually very important as well. Then of next importance is how long is your credit history? Sometimes there's an option that if your parents have good credit history, if they have good credit history, that they can make you an authorized user on a credit card, and then the length of your credit history is a little bit longer. But, you know, we talk about just the importance of building good credit and what are the components that go into that calculation. This gives you kind of an idea of what the credit score means. After about 740, you start getting the best interest rates when you want to start taking out loans, especially for like a car or for a home. So again, why it's important to have good credit. How can you build good credit? A secured credit card account. We talk about secure credit cards. We mentioned being an authorized user, co-signing on a loan if you're ready to be responsible and paying that loan off. Again, there are speaker notes to go behind all this that I'm not going to necessarily get into now, but it gives you an idea of some of the content. And then the do's and the don'ts. So pay your bills on time, because the payment history is 35% of that score. Pay your bills in full. Monitor your bills. So you can go to annualcreditreport.com and check your credit report, and, you know, make sure that all the information that's on there is correct. And then we, you know, some do's and don'ts here, right? And then this is an example of when you borrow money. For example, here, if you borrow $3,000 and you only pay the $65 monthly, it's going to take you 17 years to pay it off, and you're going to pay $3,000 in interest, as opposed to if you do $200 monthly, it will take you a fraction of the time and you'll pay a fraction of the interest. So really trying to deliver the message that it's important that when you do borrow money to pay it back in a very timely fashion, or else it really works against you. I think yesterday somebody asked me if it was important, if credit was a bad thing or a good thing. And for the most part, it can be a good thing if you're able to be financially responsible, but it can be your worst nightmare if you're not. So if it's important to really understand the importance of credit and how to manage it. And so then in these next slides, we show them what's a credit report. So we talk about what's in your credit report, what's not in your credit report. So we can go through this. Here's an example of someone's credit report, what it may look like, what you're looking for, what a revolving account might be. Those are like your credit cards. The balances go up and down as you spend it. Mortgage accounts. There is some personal information on your credit report. Inquiries, we talked about inquiries, whether soft inquiries or hard inquiries impact your credit score. So the hard inquiries is when you give permission to the bank to pull your credit for a particular loan. Soft inquiries, if you ever get credit card offers in the mail and you didn't really authorize those offers, those are typically soft inquiries. And then if you have any like huge kind of legal decisions against you, bankruptcies, judgments, and liens, that will also be on there. And so there we just, that's actually the end of the presentation, but you know, this is just an example of some of the material that we have to share and that you're able to download and deliver these lessons to your students.
I did see a question earlier about whether or not there are any like interactive lessons that are not downloaded. Is there anything that's online? I think we're going to get into that a little bit more in our next two presentations, but if you had any resources.
You know, I don't know if there's any games necessarily on Better Money Habits, and I can double check. It's more resources to, you know, like the calculators and you know, kind of like budgeting tools. I would call them more tools than games. So I'll just leave it at that. I don't think there are any interactive games on there, but definitely something I think it would be great to have.
Got it. Well, we loved the bean activity. We got feedback on that, and I loved that too, because I could see that being utilized, you know, even down at the elementary school level, to start having these conversations with children when they're, you know, really young. So the bean activity is fantastic.
Well, and I think it was great too. I liked the at the beginning, the spending analysis tool, because I think sometimes, you know, I've had friends that's what we talk about is like, how much do you spend for groceries? To be like, am I in line with the normal people? Or now like our gas bills and electric bills will show other homes your size, like, just so you know, you're like, this is where you're fitting in here, to know like, oh, okay, am I on target, or are we that you never want to be the outlier. So I enjoyed seeing that. And I think that even without the interactive tools, I think what was cool is that these are some resources that I could see our teachers taking and then adapting and being able to use them with a whole group. Because sometimes when students are all each individually working on different things, that can be a little bit harder to manage from a teacher perspective, but to know that you could do a whole group activity with some of these. So this was really great. I enjoyed the visuals that the Better Money Habits has, is like some really cool graphics that I think do well for, and they go a long way for our students to see it visually, and that those speaker notes are there, because I know that that's why we're having this series today around financial literacy, is our teachers have told us that that's what they want to learn about, and it's not a strength of all of ours. And so those speaker notes, I think a lot of us will cling on to those because we're not experts in financial literacy. So it's neat that we can use that as a tool. So this was excellent. I didn't see, oh, and then, yeah, I did want to, and Joycelyn has the same question. How to schedule, like you mentioned earlier, that there are people that could come to your site to share more. What would be the steps that we need to do if we're interested in doing that?
Yeah, so I've shared my email address, and go ahead and share my email address, my Bank of America email address. And then depending on where you're located, we might engage our LA champions. So we have Los Angeles champions, and we also have folks who are, in the Valley area. We probably handle that. So if you want to reach out to us, we'd be happy to coordinate that, because I want to say some of our favorite audiences are in the schools. So we'd be happy to arrange that.
Great. And that I just put in the chat our resources organizer. So everyone inside there is Paula's contact information, her slide deck from today, the links directly to Better Money Habits, all of that is there. So all of that information, and then also for the other two presenters, their information is in there as well. I don't see any other questions or anything in the chat. And I know you have a birthday party to go start blowing up a jumper. So thank you for spending your Saturday morning with us to share about Better Money Habits. We're grateful that you took the time to go over everything, and we really appreciate it. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm really appreciative that everyone's taking time to learn how to deliver this, because it's such an important topic. I appreciate the time.
Thank you so much.
Thank
we
you.
appreciate your time today. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, and I think for all attendees, we will do a 3-minute stretch break. We'll start off right away at 10 o'clock with our next presenter here from EverFi. So go do a stretch break, coffee refill, tea refill, whatever you need to do, and we will see you back here at 10 o'clock. Okay, it is 10 o'clock sharp, so we'll go ahead and continue on. So our next presenter today is Lance Burbank from EverFi. Lance is in charge of implementation of EverFi across the state of California. EverFi is an educational technology company that some of you may already be using in our TPP toolkit, actually. So those of you who are transition teachers and staff, our TPP toolkit activity E4 allows students to learn about some of the banking basics, and that entire content is put on by EverFi. EverFi is also an app on Schoology, which all of us are using. And basically, EverFi is an engaging, interactive, and accessible tool intended to empower students with financial knowledge and with skills. So thank you for sharing your morning with us, Lance, and we're excited to hear more.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me. It's good to be with you all. Before I start, if you could just let me know in the chat, just so I get a sense of who's in the room. If you've ever actually tried EverFi, or maybe if you looked at it, or if you've actually used an EverFi course this year or a previous year with students. Have not yet, never, not yet. Heard of it? Yes. Who's that? Yes, Brenda.
I like the not yet. So it's letting
Not
us
yet,
know that they're
right.
open.
Beverly.
So.
Beverly has. Okay, great. Subscribe. No. Awesome. That gives me a good sense. So we do have a few folks that have maybe tried a course, but overall it's still very fresh and very new. So that's very exciting to me when I come into a training. It's like, yes, people that are new. And my goal is really for you to leave here in a very practical sense, prepared and ready to use any of these resources with your students ASAP. I mean, it could be even in the end of this year, or definitely, of course, heading into next school year, feeling super prepared. So a little bit of information about me. My name is Lance Burbank. I don't live in Burbank. People always ask me if I'm from Burbank with my strange last name. I'm actually from Florida, Amelia Island, a little island in Northeast Florida. Went to the University of Florida, studied education there, and then became a teacher in Oakland for about 10 years. I taught 4th and 5th grade in Oakland Unified at a low-income school, so worked with a lot of students, similar to working in LA Unified. And then about 5 years ago, I joined the EverFi team in Los Angeles and have been supporting LA Unified and a lot of surrounding LA schools with implementation. And then now recently I've moved back to San Francisco, to the Bay Area, and I'm supporting schools up here too. We're kind of going through a transition of how we're supporting schools, and you'll hear more about that later. But just working with the financial literacy initiative for LA Unified has been the joy of my last 4 years. So seeing almost every single high school in LA Unified be trained and know what EverFi is, and I think this year we're in 125 high schools, has really the clamoring from teachers, students, and families for financial education is stronger than ever, and I've seen it firsthand, and I'm really excited for you all to be a part of it too, as we make equity true across the district. It's important that that you have the tools as you're working with your students to meet their needs and really prepare them for what's out there in an ever-changing banking landscape and just the way we interact with the world. So hopefully these resources will be interactive. A lot of them are gamified and scenario-based. So they really meet the modern learner where they are. And that's really exciting. So the goal for today is I'm going to give you an introduction to what's available there inside the EverFi app on Schoology via Clever. So as you know, we can add the EverFi app in Schoology, but it's really just a shortcut through Clever. So you can also access EverFi there, and I'll show you that. And I really want to give you some time to explore the courses once I give you the lay of the land, the ones that you think would be the best for you and that you want to explore. And then I'd love to hear you report back and kind of see which resources you took a look at. And I think it'll be a lot more fun than if I just do a PowerPoint for you to actually get in there and explore in a little bit too. So I'm going to share my screen. and give you an overview of the resources. There we go. All right. This was just a little bit of overview information about EverFi, just to show our impact and just to give you a general sense of how EverFi is impacting schools. One thing I should note, people always ask us how are we a free resource, and how are the courses engaging and really great if you're free. So we do work on a sponsorship model. So all of our resources are funded across the US, Canada, and the UK through sponsors. So you may have seen for our high school financial literacy course, our main course, which I'll talk about in a moment, the sponsor is City National Bank. So you may have seen they've doubled down on their commitment to LA Unified and did another sponsorship for another $1 million contract for another 3 years to sponsor financial literacy for high school for our main course. So here are the resources here. And so don't be overwhelmed by this menu, but I wanted to show you not only I wanted to show you the high school courses first, but I want to make note that there are middle school and elementary school resources when you're going into your dashboard that you're going to see that could be a good fit for some of your students as well. So even though these are the courses that we list for high school, do you have access to the middle school and elementary school resources, and you should never think that you have that anything's locked to you. You have all of the resources. So our financial education vertical is how we got our start. So the FI in EverFi stands for financial. So our 101 course is our EverFi financial literacy course. That's the one sponsored by City National Bank for LA Unified as the Dollars and Cents program. That we consider our 101. That is the wheel of our financial literacy lessons. It's the most robust. It includes 7 online lessons. Each of them are about 30 to 45 minutes. So it's a little bit longer than a lot of our other resources. But then we didn't stop with just the main course, which covers things like banking and insurance and credit scores and financing higher ed. We've created more 201 niche courses that go deeper into specific topics in financial education. So that's where the other ones below EverFi financial literacy come in. So we have modern banking and identity protection, which covers things like Venmo and Zelle. Pathways, financing higher education, covers FAFSA form and other forms of financing higher ed. Marketplaces is investing and includes a simulated stock market. Build goes deeper into credit scores. Grow, which I think could be a great fit for you all, is called Financial Planning for Life, and helps them think through different aspects of the lifespan that people typically need to be most prepared for through housing or cars or healthcare, retirement. Accounting careers is a more niche course that we just created around careers in finance. We have a new crypto foundations course, which kids, of course, are excited about learning. We have a course called Venture, an entrepreneurial expedition where students run a simulated food truck. So that helps open their mind to what it would be like to run a business. And then we have a new course called Minding Your Money that deals more with the social emotional learning aspects of financial education. That I'm really excited about this course because for so long, our courses have done a really good job of preparing the technical skills, but I think it's so important that we actually address the impact that your finances has on your mental health, and strategies that students can use to really be excited and positive about their future, and making good decisions, and what that actually does for your mental health, being proud of yourself and making responsible decisions. Our other verticals are also applicable in terms of like college and career readiness, but that aren't specifically financial education. And you're welcome to use any of these other resources as well. So you can see in the second vertical there, we have Future Goals Hockey Scholar, Math and Science, which is math and science built around the game of hockey. We have a sustainability suite of 3 courses: Sustainability Foundations, Plants, Animals in Our World, and Ready to Recycle. They go pretty in depth into those topics in a way that that isn't like when we used to teach, recycling it just in the cafeteria, right? It's more than just sorting. Endeavor is a STEM career exploration, which includes jobs of the future, like video game design, which is obviously very high interest for students. Keys to Your Future goes over the soft skills you need to have in high school to be prepared for college and career. And then we have a data science suite that's really popular. Then we have our SEL verticals with the Compassion Project, Ignition, which is about digital wellness and safety. Our NFL sponsored course, sponsored by the Rams for you all, called Character Playbook. Healthy Relationships. And then we have a bullying prevention resource called Honor Code. And then we have our health and wellness resources, Healthier Me from elementary and middle, all the way to Understanding Mental Wellness, which is extremely popular. We've been using that in advisories across LA Unified. Alcohol, prescription drug, vaping, and then healthcare literacy, which is really exciting that we're getting that kind of information out to students, helping them think through what it means to secure good healthcare in this country, which isn't always easy. And then we've got our early literacy and cultural literacy buckets that don't have as many courses, but are growing, including African American history, continuing the story. And then we have a course called BINA, Building Insights to Navigate Anti-Semitism and Hate. So these are most of the resources that would be typically for 14 and up. But in a moment, I'm going to show you in the dashboard how you can find a few other key resources that I think would be appropriate, and some of you may want to explore depending on what age you work with. So at this time, are there any questions before I move on and get you into the platform?
I'm not seeing any in the Q&A or anything in the chat, so I think
Okay.
go.
Great, thanks, Anne. All right, so at this time, if you'll go ahead and go over to your Clever portal, or if you'd like, you can go ahead and go to Schoology and go to the waffle, the four squares at the top, and go to the LMS App Center and add EverFi. So you, either way, you can either access through your Clever portal, go down to more apps, and you should see the app that says EverFi from Blackbaud. Blackbaud is the company that acquired us about a year ago. That's right, it says that. So EverFi from Blackbaud. But if you want to go ahead and go into Schoology and add EverFi in your LMS App Center, you can do that. Click on LMS App Center, search for publisher name contains or begins with EverFi, EverFi, and then you can add that into your sandbox on Schoology. You can add it to your homeroom course, to your kids. If you have a section like that already that you want to go ahead and add the EverFi shortcut to, you can do that there. So either way, But if
You
you'll
want
come into
me to share?
Yeah.
I'm thinking that's for those people that have never done this and we have
Yeah.
different levels of Schoology
Yeah.
experience. Do you want me to share
be
my
great.
screen so you can see?
That would be
Okay,
great,
so
Ann,
it's
since
gonna
you have
bump you
access to
off
it.
here for a minute, but
Great.
And I'll just say I'm piloting doing it right now too, and I did it through Schoology, and I am able to find it. So sometimes I worry a little bit because we have different access levels in our district to different apps.
Right.
So there may be people, but I was able to find it. So generally, since I'm not a teacher, if I can find it, then I think everyone in the district probably has access to it.
Great. Yep. So you'll click on that, click on the waffle at the top.
And then
no,
we
this
have a
one, right?
question
Yeah,
in the
that
chat.
one.
We have
Yeah,
a
the
question
4
that says,
squares.
should we install for me or for school? Do you know the answer to that?
Yeah, if it says, I think it's because of your particular role. So I think for you, you would just say for me. But for teachers that have rostered students, it won't give them that option, I believe. I
Got
think
it.
it's
Okay.
more-
So the majority of our staff in transition doesn't have rostered students, but we do have some school-based staff whose schools have had them join today. And so, yeah, if you're on a school, you may have a little bit, your settings may be a little bit different from Ann's.
That's right. That's right. But anyone, no matter if you have Clever rosters or not, can still use Everfi, which is great for everyone to know. Obviously, if you have Clever rosters, they're going to pull in to the platform, but we have a design I'll show you in a minute to create a custom class, a custom cohort, we call it, with a code. And then that way, any of you can always implement Everfi with a group of students, no matter what your title, no matter what your how you work with students. All right, so we're going to click on LMS App Center. And that's going to pop up usually another window. Make sure it's not hiding somewhere.
Yeah, now I'm wondering when I shared my screen.
Yeah.
Do you see the new window or no?
We don't.
We
You might
can't
have to
see it.
reshare.
Yep.
And I'm looking in the chat to see if people are successful. Okay, John Patrick, good. Added to Sandbox. Ladon, installed, great. Gladys, good. Yeah, it's great to go ahead and just add it to Schoology because that's the most practical, especially for the way that you all work with students. Sometimes elementary school teachers like to use Clever, but it's better just to go ahead and add it to Schoology.
And I still can't see your pop-up, by the way.
Yeah, I think I need to share the whole.
Share the whole screen. Thanks for your help. All right, Julie's in, good. Marco installed on all transition courses, boom.
Okay, so this, it says
It's all I can see is it says your app has been launched
Yeah.
in a new window. Marco said it's
and I
behind.
actually don't see it. I don't see it in the new window. Okay.
There it is.
There it is.
There it
Here we
is.
go.
All right, so it opens up a new window and it says publish your name starts with, and we type in Everfi. And then we click submit. And boom, there's the app. We click on Everfi again. And then it gives us the option to install the LTI app, which is what we want to do. We agree. And then for each of you, it'll be different depending on what classes are downloaded in your Schoology. So you can just pick which courses you want to add the Everfi app to. So you can imagine a student going, if you're someone who does work with students in that traditional way, like if you assign to your homeroom or to your one of your different classes, then when they go into that specific course on Schoology, then Everfi will be on the left-hand side as a shortcut. So sometimes teachers just add them to all of them just to make sure that students have it.
I'm only hesitant because I have access of
Yeah,
to like
exactly.
30% of the teacher's courses. So these
Yeah.
actually aren't like, I'm gonna add it to this generic one, but
Yeah, just add it to the generic one for that one. Yeah.
and you think don't do the course admins?
And
Or-
don't click course admin only, because then especially in the case of working with students, because then students wouldn't see it. And we want the students to see Everfi.
And we do have a question in the chat from Barbara.
Yeah. So Barbara's asking, when we get to Clever or get into the platform, should we add students to a class? I've only used it individually with students who create an account. So the good news is you don't have to add students manually. Students are going to show up, and I'll show you this in the platform, once they enter the Everfi app through Clever and Schoology or Schoology, then their names will automatically populate. Like that's part of the single sign-on connection that happens. And even if you were in a case where you weren't assigning to the Clever roster section, so to speak, and you were giving kids a code, students could still enter Everfi through Clever and then just enter that code into the upper right, and then they would populate into your students tab because they'd basically be registering under you, so to speak. Good question. Okay, Barbara, your classes are connected, that they will show up. Okay, great. So I'm imagining you're probably going under my classes and you're seeing your Clever sections populating. Awesome.
And Lance, I was
Yeah.
wondering, so for a student, let's say, or a teacher, let's say that like they just did what I did and they added a couple of their courses, and then next week they realize, oh, I didn't add it to all of them. Would they just go back through those steps and install the app again?
Yeah, just kind of you go back through the whole thing again, rigmarole again.
And
Yeah.
then once they're in there though, they're good to go. Cause I actually think I have already added this at some point.
Yeah.
I
So
don't
go to
remember that, but-
and show now. So now we can go to courses and we can find, it might be hard with Anne because she has so many, but we find the course that you just added it to.
Okay, who remembers what I just added?
I think it was,
Dots transition course, I thought.
it's one of those dots, but there's there's multiple. Thank you for your comment, Cruz, about having so many topics that impact our students. Yeah, we are really trying to provide resources across the spectrum of issues that are impacting kids, and it makes it a great company to work for.
Okay, I think thought I was doing it to a generic one, but I did. Oh yeah, right. I think it was it, oh gosh, you guys, who remembers in the chat which course I added that?
I do. I'm trying to.
I think I thought I was adding it to our generic one, but I think I did it to this one.
Okay.
I'm sorry, Virtual Academy teachers. Now you have it on there if you. Well, what happens with that, Lance? I just added it, but will that in any way affect the teacher who owns
Well,
that
I work with the
course?
Virtual Academy teachers too, so a lot of their students are either
Yeah.
using or need Everfi anyway. So there's no harm. There's definitely no harm done.
So let's check. If I click here, we'll be able to see if it showed up as an app.
I believe so. Yeah. So basically, what I'm trying to show now is that once a student is in that specific course that you've added it to, then Everfi. Yep. So Anne is showing us now on the left-hand side. Everfi is now there along the other apps that had been installed. So students have that shortcut ready and they can go ahead and launch it open. And go ahead and click Everfi. I'm using you now.
Sure.
You're gonna I'll have to send you a Starbucks gift card for your help.
Yeah.
Uh, uh, it'll ask you if you're a previous EverFi user, and you can click dismiss if you've never used EverFi. If you have a lot and you wanted that data to be sent over, that's why you would link it. But if you don't have a lot of data, like you didn't use it last year or anything like that, then you don't need to worry about that. And so now, as we can see here, and hopefully you've been able to go ahead and open up, this is the EverFi dashboard. And ANS right now doesn't look very complicated because we're under my courses and there aren't any courses. So it makes it look like, oh, well, I've got an empty EverFi shell. Well, no, you don't. You have everything you need. It's just your My Courses is empty because you haven't ever assigned anything to a group of kids. So there's not a list of the main courses that you're familiar with. So your first step is to go to explore courses. And this takes you to the catalog. So you're going to have the deck that I gave you that had that full course overview page. And that's going to help you navigate this catalog, because as you can see, we have so many courses now, and we're continually trying to figure out how to make our catalogs in a way that where teachers can truly navigate it better. And it is getting better, but it's still hard because we have so many resources, and because of the way our sponsorship model works, it's like we have to keep them so separated. But in the future, we're kind of changing. We're trying to move to more like a playlist way where you'll be able to pull from different courses a little bit more easily. But as you can see here, Anne is scrolling through the financial education vertical, kind of like we were seeing on the slide, but now we're going through it left to right. And notice that the grade ranges are there, but those are just suggestions. And so I had mentioned before that we have some elementary and middle school resources that could be good for you. So this is where you would find those. So instead of continue to scroll across until you get to something called Vault. I think you'll have access to it. Well, let me start actually first. Oh, there it is. Okay, so Vault, as you see, is listed as 4th, 5th, and 6th grade. This is our upper elementary school financial literacy resource. I'm going to show you in just a moment how you can look at the resources and give you some time to explore. But just so you know, most of our elementary school resources they look like they're for elementary school resources. So, you're going to be able to preview it and decide, okay, does that look a little too young for my students? Are they going to think it's cool? Are they not going to think it's cool? But that ultimately, you'll be able to make those decisions about different courses. And I'm going to show you how you could preview any of these resources. You can just play them like as if you're a student, grab a cup of coffee and nerd out with it and have and figure out which ones are best for you. So there's Vault. There's Venture, the one that I had mentioned was the one where kids run a food truck. And if you'll go to the left again, I wanted to show Future Smart. So there in the middle is called Future Smart Financial Literacy for Middle School. A lot of special education teachers that I work with in high schools maybe will start their students with Future Smart, and as they prepare them, see where they're at, and then move on to some of the high school resources, depending on where students are at. So I definitely think that some of you want to go ahead, and some of you may actually be working with middle schoolers, to take a look at the Future Smart course. We also have that new course to the left there, that's Smart Economics for middle school, which is kind of shows about supply and demand, which is very topical right now, especially with the way everyone's talking about inflation and the way it impacts our lives. So that one's really cool too. So the catalog gives you access to resources. If it ever says request course instead of like as if like you don't have the course yet, just click request and that will come to me. And my colleague Jamil, who covers some of LA, he covers South and East, and I cover the rest. And we will approve those, and then you'll have access to the courses. Only reason it does that is because when we set up schools, sometimes different curriculums aren't added, or like the elementary school won't be added to it, but it'll still be in the catalog, and you can still request it, and we'll of course say yes, and you can use it. It's never, you don't need to beg for it. You have access. So that's our financial education vertical. And if you'll just scroll down and kind of just show, okay, then there's the social emotional learning courses. You can investigate those. Then there's the health and wellness resources for elementary, middle, and high there. Keep scrolling down, college and career readiness. And you'll notice like Future Smart was listed in financial literacy, but it's also listed here in college and career because it's a financial literacy resource. So don't let that confuse you. They might be listed multiple places. And then early learning. And is that it? And then diversity, equity, and inclusion. Oh, and STEM. It just keeps on going. And then there's an all available if you just want to really go in and just and scroll. So then next thing I want to show you is the preview course option, which is located under details. Because the EverFi financial literacy resource right in the middle of our screen there, sponsored by City National Bank, because that's the superintendent's initiative, from Superintendent Buettner, now passed on to new Superintendent Cavallo. Because that is our main resource, let's go ahead and start there. So Anne clicks on details. And when we do, this opens up everything that you could possibly need to know about this specific resource. And most of our resources are about four to 7 lessons. They typically take about 20 to 30 minutes to finish a lesson. There's always a post quiz where you get to see the student score. If they score 70% or higher, then they're certified. They get a certificate on their dashboard. You can get one under the students tab for them. When you're looking at these teacher resources that Anne's scrolling through, you may be thinking lesson plans. Well, I thought this was digital. I thought this was online. Well, it is. So there's the digital lesson. And then we have these additional lesson plans that can be used as a follow-up, but they're not mandatory. It's just more of if you want to lead more of a discussion-based lesson in your class, and or if you're working with someone, if you're working with a small group, or however you're working with kids, you could find these additional lessons beyond just students doing the digital and then doing a quiz. So those exist here. Definitely take note of the curriculum guide. Curriculum guide is just a fancy way of saying like what's the topics that are covered in that specific course. So go ahead and open up that curriculum guide, Anne. So here that'll tell us like standards alignment, but most importantly, topic areas. So we can see in the main financial literacy course, we got banking basics, income and employment, budgeting, consumer skills, credit and debt, financing higher ed, and insurance. So those are the 7 lessons that students would do in this main course. It gives a little bit more detail below of what are the topics that are covered. You could pull like preview things from this, but there are other resources like discussion guides that are included in the teacher resources, which are great to pull from. There's even a Pear Deck, because we partner with Pear Deck for each course. If you're familiar with Pear Deck, it's basically, just an interactive PowerPoint or presentation that you could open up and show to students, just to, that have like questions you would ask students in a classroom to get them thinking about the topic they're going to go into in the lesson, just to prime them and that. So the curriculum guide is kind of just a very dry way for you to see what's covered. But really open up those pair decks and those interactive decks, and you're going to see how this could come alive more for you. But at the end of the day, we're meant to be turnkey and we're scalable because of the way we work. But we always want teachers to know that if you want to go deeper than just the digital lessons, like all of that has been created for you, and you've got that. I know when I used our old version of Vault Elementary School back with my students in Oakland back in the day, and there was always this one particular lesson on budgeting where I would do the follow-up lesson because I really liked the activity that was with it, where they had to budget out, kind of like y'all were just talking about with the previous speaker, and really helping that come alive for kids, because you want it to translate into their actually lived experience and go beyond. You'll notice in the course that they are scenario based. And so why don't I go ahead and show you that now? So you'll see how interactive the courses are, and that it actually follows real students and real life scenarios. So go ahead and go back over and to
I'm sorry, I kicked myself off. Okay, so go back.
All good. You're doing such a great, this is so much better than me, because then I wouldn't be able to see. So I appreciate you. Go ahead and go back over to your EverFi dashboard. And go up to, just scroll up. And so notice we're still under the financial literacy course. And now I'm going to show you how to preview the course. Look, it says it right there. So go ahead and click preview course. And this is exactly what the students would see when they go into this specific resource. So they come in, welcome, select a module to get started. Don't be confused with the tax simulations. Those are kind of a bonus feature of this particular course that we created with Intuit. But there you can see the 7 lessons across the bottom. Go ahead and click on Banking Basics. This is the one that's been put in, that Anne was mentioning has been put in as part of, what do you call that, Anne?
It's in our TPP toolkit. I think it was E4 was one. We wanted to try out EverFi, and we thought, let's put it in there as one of the activities. And it was suggested that Banking Basics was a good place to get started. Yeah,
so this is for the one that'd be great for you to try out. So if you were just trying to maybe try one lesson before the end of the school year, like try this one. So you can see here, it tells like lesson length 35 minutes. I always would add about add 10 or 15 minutes to whatever you see, whatever we suggest. I always think it takes students a little bit longer. And remember, I said this is our most robust course. The other courses typically have more like 20-minute lessons, but this is like our main financial literacy resource. So the lessons tend to be a little bit more like a full class period. So you can go ahead and click start. I'm not going to take you through a bunch of this, but I just want to kind of give you a sense of how interactive it is.
In this module, you will reflect on how you feel about money and the way you store your money. Discover the types of financial institutions and products they offer. Open and manage a checking and savings account. Uncover how you can begin to plan for your future through investing. And play a game to evaluate the impact of compound interest. Before you get started, let's see what you know.
All right, so it kind of gives them just a basic overview of the things they're going to be learning. Then it's going to take them through a pre-quiz. Go ahead and click next. So all of our courses, teachers have a pre-quiz. That's not to scare the kids. It's just to kind of see what they already know. Those scores come to you as well. Just get them thinking. And I don't necessarily suggest like telling students the answers, but maybe at least orienting them around, in a pre-quiz around like what topics are, but just reminding them this is just to see what you already know. If you don't know it, that's good, because then you're about to learn it. So you can just flip through those pretty quickly, Anne.
You have to get them right.
Yeah, you don't have to get them right. Giving sense to kids what they're
How
going to
we
be
feel
learning.
about managing money can impact our choices. Some choices can be confusing and some can make us nervous. Answer a few questions to reflect on how you manage your money.
This gives them a chance to, we always try to include things for them to think about their own lives and reflect on their own relationship to money.
Either you've been doing some money management research on your own or someone has taught you well. You're off to a great start, but you can always learn more. Let's get started.
I just want to show you a little bit further to show that it's character based. So go ahead and click start.
Hi, I'm Martin Suarez. I just got my first job ever as a lifeguard. I've been working for 2 weeks now, and I'm about to get my first paycheck. The problem is, I'm not exactly sure what I'm supposed to do with it. I want to start saving money, but I'm not sure where to go to do that.
So in most of our courses, pretty early on, they go ahead and meet some characters. And I really think that that's beautiful. We've got a lot of feedback from teachers that like it's been really helpful for students to be able to connect in some ways to the characters in the courses, whether it's someone like Martin here who's getting his first job, or in our financing higher ed course, students that are sitting around, sitting at home with their parents around a table talking about what does it look like to finance community college, or or different things, different next steps. So take the time to do that, to really go through and decide which ones would be best for you. And you can see developmentally what the high school course looks like, and then what some of the others may look like. And why don't we take a look really closely at the middle school one, so I can just show you the difference between the high school financial literacy and the middle school. If you'll go back to your dashboard, so any of you that want to go back to your other courses, you can just click your name at the top where it says welcome Anne, click dashboard, and then go to explore courses again. We're looking for financial literacy, financial education. And then we're going to scroll to get to Future Smart. This says financial literacy for middle school. Yeah, go to details. And then preview course. You can see this one looks a little bit like a modern Charlie Brown. It's themed around, this message is, if students don't have their computer on full screen, it's basically just saying you should probably put your computer on full screen, because it's hard to see all the buttons if you don't. It makes it sound a lot worse than it really is, like warning, but it's so the first lesson in this particular course, it's themed around, but you become the mayor of your town. So in the first lesson, they do like a financial personality quiz to see like how they've thought about money so far in their life, how spontaneous they've been in different decisions, even if it's not around money. And it suggests to them, oh, like you're kind of a spontaneous spender, or you've been kind of a saver so far in your life. But then by the end of that first lesson, the intro lesson, it tells them that they're the mayor, basically, and that some citizens are going to be coming to them for help with financial decisions. So that lesson 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7 there are those citizens coming to them, and like one of them is budgeting around their like redecorating their room, like at their apartment. And so that you have to help them do that. One of them is around smart shopping, ways to pay. So that teaches you the difference between credit and debit, the like core concepts like that. And by lesson 7, they build out a blueprint of kind of some of their main financial goals that they have and some of their main academic goals and how those are linked together. So this shows you, like, this obviously looks a little bit more kiddie than the other. So it might work with some of your students, and some students it might not work. So I just wanted to give you that awareness of what that looks like. With our other middle school course, though, we've kind of taken that into mind. We have a new course called Save Up that I'll take a look at for a second, and you'll kind of notice that we designed it in a way that maybe it wouldn't look as young, so that even if a student is in high school taking it, and that one is our brand new course called Save Up. So let's show that one real quick, Anne. If you just go back up to dashboard. And this one, it's not as long as Future Smart, and it's not as, I would say, as like Future Smart is really great around its theming, but if the kids are too old, then it's like, but it's good if they're really in that developmental range of it. But Save Up is a little bit more, I'd say, kind of generic and could be used across different grade spans a little easier. Yeah, that one. You can see from the way the characters look and with this choice for our newer courses, I would have students always press enable autoplay, because that's going to be good for making sure the audio plays on each page. Some kids just want to read it, but I find we have our voices, and it's just so much, it comes to life so much better, I think, if they actually listen to the audio. And then they can do captions as well. Let's just show a little bit of that, first lesson.
Welcome. Join Naz and her older brother Riyadh as they talk about the importance of saving money, how a budget can help you spend your money wisely, and the difference between wants and needs. Select each name label to learn more.
I'm a rideshare driver, and I need a phone to do my job. I had to buy a new phone when my old one broke, so I can help my sister find a phone that she can afford.
Yeah, and then just do NAS real quick.
I want a new phone, but my parents can't afford to help me buy the one I want. Will I be able to save enough to afford a new phone using just my allowance?
Great, thanks, Anne. So as you can see in this course, even though we list this as a middle school resource, it definitely, I feel like a high schooler is going to take this and not necessarily feel like, oh, this is for children, right? The way we've done the characterization, the way the topic is. So we're trying to be more mindful with our new courses for them to be able to be spread across that grade span in a way that it doesn't, you will never have students say like, oh, this is for kids and not for me. So cool. Yeah. LaDon says, I love how the lessons are culturally relevant. Yeah, we put a lot of work into making sure that students can see themselves represented in our courses. And of course, we've even gotten some flack from some red states, and things, and how that can be. But overall, it's like been really, really positive. The response has been overwhelmingly positive. We only have about 10 minutes. And so I'm curious, and I want you to know that in the slide deck, the whole end of it is like, I put 25 slides, it's basically all of the courses, like an overview slide of like how long it is, how many lessons there are, what are the topics covered. So if you're someone right now that's sitting there like, I actually don't really know which course I think is best, then you could do some digging. But I definitely suggest that you start with that banking basics lesson if you feel like your students are up for that, or maybe a lesson from Future Smart here or from the Save Up resource, I think would be a really great place to start. if you could go ahead and put in the chat, what out of the resources that you've seen so far, if you were going to maybe pilot one, which one you're leaning towards? It feels the most relevant for you. Curious to see where your head's at. John wants to try the banking basics. Brian, the investing resource there, marketplaces. Yeah. Barbara, you've used the banking basics, worked well. Marina is using the Vault. We didn't take a look at Vault, but remember that's the elementary school resource. Banking basics, banking basics, banking basics. Awesome. Banking basics. Great. Well, let me go ahead and in the time we have left, let me show you how you would implement that with your students. So once you're ready to implement, and will you go over to My Classes? So go back to your dashboard. So My Classes, you're going to notice, like for Anne, there aren't any classes here. This is where if you have Clever sections, where you can add to those, but if you don't have Clever sections, you can create a custom code. So click on Create a Class, Anne. And this is what all you would do when you're ready to use with kids. Right where it says class name, if you have Clever sections, that's where your sections will pull in a drop-down menu. So for some of you, it might say your homeroom, it might say your second period, your fourth period, and have the names of those pull in. If you're doing it that way, you just do one at a time. But if you don't have Clever sections, this is how you would create a code. So Anne could type in a name here like second period. These questions are just informational. They don't affect access. So just when you think you might start, about how many kids it'll be, what grade levels they are. And then go to add courses. And then here is the menu of courses. So you'll scroll till you find EverFi Financial Literacy. And yeah, you can add other things to it. But if you're trying to do the banking basics, that's lesson 1 in EverFi Financial Literacy for high school. So we want to make sure that one is selected if you're trying to do the banking basics lesson. And then when you're done adding the courses that you want to be on that code or to go to that specific section, then you can click Save. Click Reload. Try reloading it again. It's just doing that because I'm on a training.
Right, of course.
Just to keep
then
us on our
normally
toes.
then a new screen would show up and
there
it'd
it
show
goes.
all of those courses. Oh, there we go.
Right.
Did that do it?
I did it. Okay, now scroll down and we can see that those courses are added. And then now we still need to click Create Class. So we added the courses in that last step, and now we still need to create the class. It's going to suggest courses that it think might be good based on what you've done. That's kind of just promotional. So if you don't want kids to see these specific resources, just uncheck them. But if there is something there that you're like, oh yeah, I actually want them to have that resource too, you could leave it. Either way. So click OK. And then now Anne has a registration code that she could share with students to add it. If you're assigning to a Clever section, it's just going to say Clever connected there, and it's not going to give you a registration code because it's using the single sign-on as how students are registering. But Anne has a code here because it's using like the non-traditional way of 02E3B6EC. So she'd give the students that code and they would enter it into EverFi. Let me share and show you what that would look like for them.
to mix that.
So if I go here to, see if I can get there. One sec. So like I can just impersonate a student. So here's like a random student in LA Unified who doesn't have any courses, right? So meaning that no courses have ever been added to their one of the sections that they're rostered in, or they've never entered a code that someone gave them to put them into that class. So, but notice they still have a box here in the upper right. So if Anne was working with this student, they would just type in that code into this box up here, and then they would click add course. It'll ask them for their age range or their birth date. Don't worry, that information is not stored. That is to see if students are over the age of 13 or not, because students that are 13 and older with our courses receive a short survey at the beginning. Those are anonymous, non-aggregated surveys that are used district-wide across all the thousands of students using EverFi. But that gives us information about like their attitudes toward the topic of any of our resources. So that's information that, you know, we talk about with the CTE team, the economics team, when we meet with them, or even when in the past we've met with the chief academic officer, Allison, before she left. Like we would talk about those types of big learning gains that students are making, and really try to share the progress with the school board as much as we can, and just build momentum for the financial education engine that we're putting together. So that's why that exists. So when you put it in a code, if it ever asks, kids are like, oh, that's asking for my birthday, don't worry. It's just to see if they're of that threshold age, and they don't even have to put in their real birthday. So then it'll then the courses will pop up once students have it. So if I go back over here to my deck, so a student dashboard might look something like this once courses are added. So this particular course has added 306 African American history for this student. But they could always have more courses in the future. Like if a different teacher at that same school could also assign them resources, or if you wanted to assign more in the future, then more would populate. But they have a progress button, which will show them how far along they are in the course, and then it'll also save wherever they're at. Like if they can't complete an entire lesson in a given sitting, it'll save. They can do it that way. We are almost at time. So what questions does anyone have? Do you feel prepared to use some of these lessons?
I saw somebody ask about like, are these courses, let's say that you add the courses and you add students, does it go semester long? Does it delete after a certain amount of time, or is it on there indefinitely?
Great question. Yeah, it's pretty much on there indefinitely until the end of July. So it basically through the summer. But then it will get archived. But then even after it's archived, see here on the slide where it says past courses, a student could technically go to a past course and still access it. And so that's nice too, that it's not just like, okay, they learned something, but then 2 years later, they want to like go back and remember, oh, well, this is what I was thinking about then, when it's applicable. So.
And so for a student, they would go to whatever course we had. So if it was a transition course, the student would access, they would access the course through that transition course, or sorry, they'd access EverFi through that transition course, or would it show up for them as an app for them to access without their teacher?
Yeah, if they needed to get, I guess, depending on, I guess in Schoology, if Schoology moved over to like, and they have like a whole different lessons and then they like no longer find the EverFi app, they would still have EverFi on Clever,
Yeah.
no matter what course they go to. So I guess that is a little bit of a benefit of Clever login, because then students know like this is an app I always have and it's always here, versus like Schoology being like my teacher added it to. So I guess that is something to think about.
Right.
Yeah, and Marco, if you're having any trouble signing in, it might just be because of how you're assigned, like with the district. I can look into it. If you just, any of you who are having an issue, just email me, just a real quick email, and just say you can't log in. Here's my email, lburbank at everfi.com. And yeah, just email me real quick right now, right after this, and say, hey, can't log in, and I'll figure out why that is. And it might be that you need to register the old-fashioned way for EverFi. If for some reason it's not allowing you to access, like add it on Schoology or through Clever. And make sure you've tried on Clever. If you haven't already, go to clever.com and try to access there. I know we're at time. Looking at the Q, is there anything in the Q&A that's real pressing?
There was a login issue getting the error code. So I will say that about EverFi is what's also great is it's not like you click the contact us button and then you hear back from like a, AI or robot or whatever.
Right.
It's like email Lance directly and he'll be able to walk you through it or point you to somebody that will be able to. So that's really great. Someone was wondering, I think we kind of went over some good courses to start with, and people put some of those in the chat. So there was somebody asking about that. Oh, you said at the end of the EverFi activities that there was like a little quiz. So the results of those quizzes, would we see those on our dashboard under the courses, and then it wouldn't show up like in our Schoology course?
It doesn't automatically upload to the Schoology gradebook. The workaround that we've kind of used with some teachers have used, if you're trying to just save time, is to create assignments in Schoology, and then have students, if they're good at doing this, and some students are, like uploading a screenshot of the score that they got on their, it could be like maybe when they finish the course or just for a specific lesson. Make sure their name is also visible on that screenshot so that they're not, just to make sure that it's their work. But that could be a time saver for you, if you want to do it that way.
Great.
You're welcome. You're welcome, Lottison.
Yeah,
thank you so much for having me.
Great. Yes, thank you for explaining it so well. I'm glad I was able to kind of help. I know I was, that was good though to walk through it. I like that it was so interactive, and I really think it will speak to the students. I loved how student friendly it was, and it was like neat to see, even though you said like some of those visuals were maybe more middle school. I think teachers and students respond so well to those visual tools that I just love that it was really age appropriate, and always better to like for students to hear it from somebody else than maybe their parents or their teachers. So this was really, really great. So I put the resources organizer in the chat. Lance's contact information is in there as well. All of the links, everything you need are set to go. So thank you very much, Lance. And
thank you, Anne, for your help too with demoing. That was great. Better than I could have done it. So thank you. I hope you all are well, and just email me, and I'm happy to help anything with setup or hop on a call with you, and especially if you're trying to get started in the next couple of weeks and pilot this out. But I hope you all have a wonderful Saturday weekend, and I'll talk to you all later. You've got my email.
Okay, thank you very much.
Bye.
Okay, so we will move on to our final presenter for today, and that is John Maris-Coots. He might look familiar to you. He has presented to us in the past. John has served as the coordinator of the California Career Resource Network, also known as the CalCRN program at the California Department of Education since May 2008. He has been an education programs consultant at the CDE and supported the development of the California Career Resource Network's career development resources since 1998. John is knowledgeable, he's enthusiastic, And he's excited about the positive impact that career exploration and planning can have on today's students. So I'm excited to hand over the screen sharing capabilities to Sean so he can go ahead and get started. So thank you.
And at the current moment, and my video is blocked from opening, so I'm not, oh, there you go.
There you go.
I kept trying to show up and I couldn't show up.
There you
Okay.
are.
Well, I'm sorry, sorry everybody doesn't get a break. I guess stand up at your chair wherever you are and wave your arms around or whatever. And hopefully, I know it's a full morning. Appreciate you all joining in on a Saturday. And hopefully the little tour I'm going to share with you. We can keep you all engaged and awake and give you more ideas for moving forward. I know always with multi-session events, brains get kind of full of options and opportunities. I think what will be different with our resources, and some of you I'm sure have used them in the past, is our primary tools are really student owned, and students can set them up and use them on their own. They're transferable wherever they go. They take them with them. They never expire. So we're not, I mean, there's some benefits to being within a big system like EverFi offers, but there's also, I think, some of the benefits of our approach is that student ownership, their accessibility remaining open to them as long as they want to have it. So easy to open, easy to access. So let me, let's go ahead. Let's see if I can find the right screen. So I'm gonna start with, let's see, with one of the handouts that's in the organizer that Ann put together. And so I want to again reinforce that I think the big difference with our approach versus the vendors that have more encapsulated systems is we create resources, open access, easy to use, not requiring any kind of a contract with a district. They're just free to anybody, anywhere, anytime. Because they're offered statewide, sometimes they don't always hit maybe immediate district or local school needs, but we think people still find them usable and easy to access and make use of. Other reason I brought up this handout is after I put it together and sent it to Ann, I realized, oh gosh, really the best place to start this conversation is with the career zone. So if any of you had seen the organizer before and copied things and we're going to follow along on my little cheat sheet, the cheat sheet's a little bit out of alignment in this case. I also should say the real focus of the California Career Resource Network is career exploration and planning. And so we do have some elements of financial literacy, and I'm going to share those with you, as well as some of what's coming available from the department. But our big approach and really our tools are helping young people engage in thinking about their futures, how to take advantage of programs while they're with you, providing easy to use career assessments, which are often used by folks to supplement their IEPs. And so having in mind that if you're not familiar with any of our tools, keep in mind that much of what I'm showing you today can even be used more broadly in the world of career exploration. Let's see. I'll have to figure out where to put this little control thing. So let's jump right in. So some of you, I don't doubt, have made use of the Career Zone over the years. It's a resource we've offered since 2006 as a free and open access. Last summer, there was a pretty significant not redesign, but a relook and rethinking about how some of the content is provided. And so I'll talk a little bit about that with you today. Also, last summer doesn't have much impact for you all, but as Lance was talking about EverFi, so the California Career Zone has always been a resource. We've had a subscription with an out-of-state entity, and that entity was purchased by PowerSchool last summer. And so you should not see any difference, but that did impact, and I don't recall if you guys had one of the local subscriptions at one point where there was an ability to kind of localize. And now that's no longer going to be the case. But whatever I'm going to show you today is easy and available. The thing I do also like about this resource is it's really easy for either you or a student to set up. On the student side, when a student chooses Register Now, the only thing that's required for them to set up an account is to create a username and a password. The setup will ask them if they want to provide a first and last name. It's not required. It will ask them if they want to provide an email address, and that's not required. The main benefit would be if they lose track of their username and password. But that's also why we recommend to educators that if you're going to be using the tool with students, maybe come up with a formula for how you're going to create usernames and passwords and keep track of those for students. It's given the statewide approach to things that we don't have a single sign-on capacity. There's not really a way for you to upload a full course list of students, and so that can be a little bit of a complication. But I think for smaller classes, it's certainly not a deal breaker. And as an educator, when you sign up, it's really easy for you also to sign up and just get engaged in the site. So I'm already have an account. For those of you who've used the site before, a couple of the big updates, and then I'll get into the financial literacy piece, are because of the Career Zone is a national product used across many states and even outside of the education system. One of the things they reframed in this update last summer was thinking of educators as navigators who are helping the explorers who are the students. And I think one of the upgrades that they did that I think is really helpful as an educator, if you're using the site with students and you need access to your information, but you also want to be able to share, see and share the student side of the site, all you do is click this little navigation button and you move from the educator content into the student content. And I think that's really a benefit. If any of you have been using the site over the years, you don't have to set up 2 accounts now. You can just have your one account. You can be in a class and share with students, which really comes into play when we dig into looking at the financial literacy piece of this. In the free site, you can connect with students. You'll see here, I'm in the student side, there's an option to connect with a navigator who is you as the educator. And all you need to do is provide a student with this code, and then a student can put that code into their site and they would automatically be connected with you. A limitation we've had, again, by limited resources and serving the whole state, is any individual educator can connect with 50 students. So in some settings, that's a problem, maybe less of a challenge depending on your caseloads as special educators. But also if you and a big district like LA could take advantage of this. So the baseline is 50. If you recommend another educator to become a navigator, you can get up to 10 more students, up to recommending 5 additional navigators to have 100 students that you can interact with. And then if you're working with those students, you can look at individual reports of what they've been doing in the site or a group report. And so again, being able to see some of the results of the assessments that they take can be useful as you're looking at developing IEPs with students. So another jumping into a general comment, but also will get us to the financial literacy piece of this, is a new feature. Well, one new feature is for most of the assessments, a student must have an account. It's a free account. They can keep it as long as they want, shut it off whenever they want. But over many years, and I think this really commonly happened in the special education world, is over the years when the site was just completely open and an account wasn't required, we had many students and educators upset that the work they did on the site was lost when they left the site. And so the decision was made to just require, again, that easy to set up free account, so that whatever work a student does within the site, whether they're taking assessments or highlighting, favoriting occupations, that all gets saved. So a cool new feature, and you can see this whether you're logged in or not. This I want to button takes you to a listing of all of the elements of the site. So as I mentioned, this interest profiler, the money choices budgeting, the work importance, the skills, all of these do require an account. A student can take the quick assessment and explore the site without having an account. But again, nothing they do will be saved. So our primary tool within the career zone is this make money choices, creating a budget. And I think it really supplements well. I heard a little bit of the end of the Bank of America presentation and appreciated the sharing there and getting students to understanding the world of finance, and then going even deeper when using the EverFi resources. This make money choices, it's really just trying to help kids find another way to look at potential lifestyles and occupations that would support those lifestyles. So it's kind of a bigger picture look of financial literacy, but trying to help make that connection and thinking about what kind of life do I hope to live in the future, and what occupation pays that, and then how do I get into that occupation. So again, really focused back on helping students think about careers and career options and opportunities. It's a very simple budgeting activity to use. Interesting. And once you choose your state, you can choose any county in the state as the county you want to create a budget in. And I have to say, so all of these elements that I'm going to show you, the developers are able to pull costs from a variety of sources, many of them government annual census kind of information. The most difficult one, I think, to keep track of is housing, as you all, I'm sure, are well aware. But that's okay, because one of the things that it allows is let's say a student decides, okay, I could see living in an apartment in downtown LA, and they'll find out that this is a ridiculous amount, but maybe they can get something for $2,500. So again, I think the world of data that we're able to just freely access, it has some limitations, but does provide opportunities for kids to do even a little bit more research about, okay, what does it cost to rent an apartment in the LA area or to buy a place? And then they walk through a series of selections, and I'm going to do this very quickly just so you can get a basic idea of how the site works. So they go through and they think about, okay, what are my food choices going to be? Am I mostly going to be a cook or eat out quite a bit? And as you can see, unlike I am poorly modeling, if you were implementing this with students, it's very easy to open up your account and provide students with a tour on your own and engage them in conversation along the way. You get them thinking about, well, where do they want to live? And how's that going to work? And then what do they think about they'll be spending on food? And are they going to be a partier person or stay home more? And will they be in a job that requires some kind of work clothes, but otherwise don't need to do anything particular, or maybe they want to be a fancy dresser? And then, what are they going to do about a car? And I think I always liked, for years since we've had this site, I've always appreciated that getting them noting that owning a car involves maybe having a loan in this case, or paying for gas, insurance, maintenance. So the notion for young people, I think often across the board for young people as they think about cars, many of them are not even familiar with the concept of having to pay for gas, even though they've sat in a car with someone paying for gas. So this notion of helping them think about the bigger expense of a car beyond just being able to buy something that looks interesting. And then, what's health insurance going to look like? Are they going to think they'll be in an occupation that's going to provide health insurance in some way? Are they going to have some expenses related to post-secondary education? Do they think they might want to save some money? And what amount might they want to save? And then this gives them a basic budget and factors in taxes and the annual minimum salary. They can add things like motorcycles or pets or other things. And then where the site starts to, I think, become even more powerful is then it looks at the nearly 1,000 occupations and says, here's the 329 occupations that pay the minimum or the amount you were hoping your lifestyle, the kind of lifestyle you could live. And then you can see all of them show up with a cute little piggy bank that says this occupation pays that budget. Just this little snapshot here. They can go and look at a particular occupation, but down here it'll tell them, generally speaking, what post-secondary education and training does this occupation require? What's the median salary? And is it a growing or a shrinking occupation? So a lot of information just from this list to get them thinking about from the money side. Okay, I have this vision of how I think I'd like to live my future life. What kinds of occupations would support that? And then each of these occupation profiles, normally if we were looking on the career side, I'd spend more time looking at the occupations. But again, I think you can see it's very easy to figure out the base navigation to go through and engage in a budget and then start exploring occupations that they can compare up to 4 occupations to see some of the similarities and differences. And so that's the basic tool that's here and available inside the career zone. What else did I want to say about that? There is a guide inside when you start creating the budget to help them think about what's it take to create a budget. And what I'm going to show you next is some lesson plans that we do provide that help you engage in using young people and having young people use the Career Zone website. So again, that's a little different for me, trying to be sure covering the basics of the financial literacy elements of the Career Zone, but I think hopefully that gives you an idea of what the make money choices element looks like. And Anne, I don't know if there were any questions that came up before, unlike the prior presentations, I'm going to be looking at a variety of resources, and so maybe helpful to pause at each place. And again, this is our most comprehensive, therefore I suppose complicated resource.
Yeah, I don't think no questions, just positive feedback in the chat. Someone had mentioned about the make money choices that maybe some of the amounts need an inflation add-on on them, but kind of more as an LOL comment. But I love that one. That's my favorite tool to use. I think that's so helpful for kids to see the numbers all added up and what that really means for them. And then somebody just asked, how often is the info updated?
Well, for the budget, it's updated as often as new information becomes available. So the developers that are behind the site, they just regularly track. A lot of those numbers come from the federal government annual census data. I think some of the housing prices come either from Zillow, or I think HUD has information about housing prices. Again, the challenge is having to use freely available data sets so that they can go grab information and pull it into the site. And so as noted, I agree with you that it would be cool if all of those numbers would always better reflect what's currently going on, but just in terms of what data is available, it's not always the most current for what we're looking at going forward. But that's again why the feature was built into the budgeting to again and add that element of not just going through and clicking the buttons, but doing some researching. Looking online at local apartment pricing, or I'm trying to remember if I've seen apartment books, at the grocery store, like you saw us see, right? The housing. So it is updated as often as the sources make it available, and the sources are primarily public sources that provide all that information.
And that is what I like about it too, that it isn't these random numbers coming from the whole site, everything. It's backed by data and resources to support the information. So yeah, I don't see any other questions. So
Okay, well, cool. Well, now I'm going to go into giving you some thoughts about how we can help you begin making use of the California Career Zone. So we're an interesting program within the Department of Education because the majority of our resources are directly student facing. They're available to students and their families, whether they're engaged with a counselor or teacher or not. They're also available to people outside the school systems. Our Ed Code mandate is to serve the whole state of California. So there are kind of unique resources in terms of that just being open to anyone who wants to use them. And so over the years, initially we did a better job, I think, and the program's been around for many, many decades, did a better job of creating resources than necessarily providing you all with tools to help you engage in the resources. And that was up till about 10 years ago. We were able to do some work to create a whole set of lesson plans to help you implement not just the career zone, but other resources and expose kids to federal resources. So our home site here at the California Career Resource Network, this californiacareers.info, our home site is really the one resource that is oriented toward you all. So we promote this site and all the available information primarily to educators. Again, it's just an open site on the internet that anyone can find. But this is where we try to help you figure out what resources we do have available and how to use them with students. So on this page is a link to the resource guide, the resource highlights that's in the organizer and put together. On Friday, we actually updated it. So this posted one is a smidge different, not much than what I shared with Ann a while back. But that provides, again, a reminder of all of the tools we have available. So in the organizer, I had two handouts. One was that overview sheet I showed you of Department of Education resources. The other one is a resource of all of our an overview of all our resources. So on the homepage, there's links to our websites. We have 3 mobile apps for students to make use of. 2 of these websites by the end of the school year will be merged into one because we know, and I've been sharing about these resources for years, it always gets a little bit confusing to have so many web resources and related mobile apps. So beginning in the summer, we'll have 2 primary tools available to students and you, the Career Zone and the Career Center, which will just implement elements of this Job Central. So the home site links to all of our resources, but of most importance today is pointing out that there's this one section called Quick Starts. So the Quick Starts were put together as with a notion of being kind of an easy one-off way to help you engage students in using all of our resources. So the Quick Starts are not comprehensive lesson plans. They're not really intended as multi-class, multi-day, semester-wide resources. They're really intended as a way to engage students and begin using the resources. And as far as the Career Zone goes, so that means that we posted this Make Money Choices student workbook. So often, I mean, we know of the wonder and the power of online accounts and online accounts keeping track of everything. We also know that sometimes it's handy to have something to write on. And so that was the notion with this workbook. I guess it's more about giving them the directions and necessarily something to work on. So, I'm sorry. Again, we have a workbook for the Career Zone in general. The Make Money Choices workbook is oriented specifically to using the Make Money Choices budgeting activity. And so it just gives directions for how to engage in using it, thinking about lifestyle, where to go in, and then just tracking by hand the choices that they make on the site. And so it can be useful, relevant as a tool, maybe even just for you to remind you what's available and what does the Make Money Choices budgeting activity look at. And so that's why that's available as a resource to support making use of the Make Money Choices web app. And that again is here in our home site under Quick Start. We also have online a set of 45 lesson plans that cover all aspects of career and post-secondary planning, career, college, military, apprenticeship, all post-secondary, and helping young people think about where they are and where are they trying to go. The lesson plans begin in 5th grade. When we created these lessons, we kind of had in mind trying to do one-shot lesson via a lesson plan. And we also tried to think about, given everything else you all are doing, what might be a reasonable number of lessons that could be accomplished in a school year. And also had funding limitations about how many lessons could we create. So we decided that we wanted to begin this work and to promote beginning this career work in 5th grade. So that's why these lessons start in 5th grade. The lessons are pretty flexible across grade levels. There's 5 or 6 lessons per grade. The lower the grade, there's kind of more about who am I and what are my interests. And as they progress through the lessons, there's more about creating an actual post-secondary plan. And one of the things I've always loved about the world of special education is the requirement for planning and having a transition plan. And it's something I think every student in our school system should be required to have to develop some kind of a plan. It may change, probably will change, but the process of developing a plan helps them think about what goes into planning. And so anyway, within these series of lessons, we help students think about who am I in relation to the world of work? Where am I going? What's an occupation that makes sense for me in terms of my skills and interests and capabilities? How do I get there? As you all know, we kind of live in this fantasy world where we think no one can be successful in life without a BA from Stanford. We also know it's not possible, regardless whether it's mainstream ed or special ed. There's not room in all of our college systems for all students. And so while it's wonderful to promote that notion and help students move toward that, our work really focuses on trying to help you educate young people about all post-secondary options, whether it's community colleges. They often is a primary target for kids in our special education system, but they can learn about other post-secondary options just like every other student. And so again, the really wanting young people to think about that. Who am I? Where am I going? How do I get there? And moving towards having a plan. So there's 2 lessons that we really focus on looking at financial literacy and lifestyle. So in the 7th grade, again, flexible across grades, there's a lesson that makes use of the Make Money Choices app within the Career Zone, walks through all of the steps. All of these lesson plans are posted as docs. And the reason we did that is, as noted, we work with the full spectrum of the entire K-12 in particular education system within the state of California. And it's so complicated to try to create a lesson that every single teacher could use with every single student. So we thought that by creating an effective lesson, but one that is adjustable, would better serve you. So that's why these lessons are posted as documents so that you can download them. You can make use of them as they are. You can pull pieces out. You can modify them. So they really are intended to be hopefully useful as created, but also useful, but available for you to edit and revise for your student population. So that's why they're posted as docs. There's also a lesson plan in grade 10 around lifestyle. And so trying to orient a little bit towards those developmental levels, but so 2 kind of similar lessons, but both use the Make Money Choices app within the Career Zone. And all of these handouts within the lessons are available in English and Spanish. I'm trying to remember if I bring up a lesson, Anne, can you guys see this, or do I have to change the share?
Okay, let's see.
You still just see the website?
So I see just grade 10.
Okay. I'm gonna not worry about it then, other than to tell you they're great lessons. No, we think they are well done. We pulled together a nice cross section of educators to create the lessons, kind of revise them over the years as some elements need to change or some of the resources change. But this full set of lessons, again, are intended to help you engage in students using the Career Zone or other resource, the Career Center. They're also intended to help students learn about other federally free provided resources and tools that they can make use of throughout their adult lives. And so that really is our hope behind making use of these lessons. Remember. Oh, okay. So as noted, so that's the lesson plan. So the quick starts and the lesson plans are the resources available to you, and in this case focusing on financial literacy and really making use of the Career Zone make money choices, but there's lessons covering all kinds of other topics. And then what I did here is wanted just to show you, this is the other document that Anne put into the organizer, and oh, that's just the same. So that was the only reason I had those other links up on the page. So I don't know if there's any questions about the home site or if that's clear about quick starts versus lesson plans and their availability to you. Anything there, Anne?
I am not seeing any questions.
Okay. Then the last tool for the Career Resource Network that I want to show you is this one called the Career Center. I guess I should comment, the reason I started with the Career Zone is we get close to over 2 million sessions a year across the state, across grades. And so it really is heavily used. Our other primary student-facing resource, the Career Center, is less heavily used, but gaining some momentum and is available to you and your students as the Career Zone is as a free resource. You'll note up here, this little green tag just points out that we're merging these two websites. So I suppose the good thing to tell you right now is wait till July to go in and if you just use this URL for the Career Center, you'll find that newly merged, newly launched website. And the main thing that did is it took all of the tools available in the Career Center and added this resume creator that is the primary tool within Job Central. So we'll have one website that kind of is intended to function as a virtual counselor with tools and resources for young people. As with the Career Zone, students can set up a free account, limited personal information requested of them. They can keep it into adulthood as long as they want. They can delete the account anytime they want. The other big feature, or the big update that will happen with this newly merged Career Center is it's going to improve the educator interface. You see this notes that we do have some educator information. When the site was first created, it was really focused on creating student access and student use, student resources. And so the educator account was less full featured. And so we've kind of added tools over the years to where now the new site is going to make the educator side of the site, I think, more intuitive for educators to use and access. And it does provide a way for you to interact with content that students create on the site. I'm not going to go into it, but just so you know, you're welcome to set up an account and go look. But again, I would wait till summer. There's still going to be a student account, which is not focused on financial literacy. So I'm not going to go into that, but just to say these elements and this dashboard is where students are able to, well, the site automatically puts anything they create in their account, like a resume or a post-secondary plan. It puts it in the dashboard, and as an educator, you can review it and comment on it. And again, that will be more intuitive in the future. But for today, what I wanted to focus on in terms of tools related to financial literacy is, because of the importance, right, of students having some basic understanding of finance and money and how it works as they start working, so they don't just blow their money immediately. We do pay some attention to, as we frame it here, money management and financial literacy. So we do have some tools related to that. Much of it is related to financial aid and paying for post-secondary education and training. The main things I wanted to point out in this section that I think are actually kind of cool resources to supplement the work you're doing around finances is there are a number, but two entities that create family sufficiency, family self-sufficiency, or provide numbers to help all Californians understand and even policymakers about what's it cost to live in California and what's it cost to live in all the basic areas of California. And they don't cover everything, but I think they are very interesting to use with students. This Making Ends Meet looks at housing, childcare, transportation, food, healthcare, miscellaneous taxes. And I think this is where the power of these sites come into play. I don't think young people always understand the impact of having kids. They are kids, right? And they don't know the impact, often don't know the impact they're having on their family finances, of the expenses involved in having young people or having children in a family. We've talked some about having a feature like that in the career zone, but haven't been able to pull that off yet. But you know, often people do want to know, like resources like the career zone. Look at me as an individual worker, probably starting out life. How do I want to live? But what happens if I get married and have a non-working spouse, or I want to have 8 kids because I love kids? And so that's where these two resources, I think, are helpful for that conversation. So again, Making Ends Meet and this family needs calculator looks at similar categories. It breaks down a little more simply the age levels of children, because childcare expenses come into play. So these are two resources posted on the Career Center. Again, not sites that we maintain in any way, just linked to provide you with tools as for ways to talk with young people about the impacts that financial decisions make. So I find them pretty fascinating, and they break it down by county with a lot of good information. So that's what's inside the California Career Center, this money management section. There's 2 big elements to this site, as you've kind of seen. So there's just content available without an account, and then there's My Stuff student account, as well as an educator account, where there's other more interactive tools within the site, but not related to financial literacy. I think the last thing, well, so any questions about that? And I know I'm whipping along and we're in hour 3 of the morning, so your brains may be spinning, but hopefully between the notes and enough clarity, you're getting some sense of how these resources can support you. Any questions, Anne, about the Career Center?
I don't see any questions. There's more positive feedback in the chat. So
oh, good.
I think you're doing a good job explaining it and walking us through it.
Well, thank you. And the other thing to point out, I'm pretty sure on this resource that I put my information. Yes. So the other thing to have in mind after this, I mean, certainly Anne is familiar with the tools, but I do respond to, especially emails are easy since I'm not always by a phone. But if there's questions or follow-up or other information you need, or you've been trying to implement, make use of some of these, please feel free to email, and I do respond as quickly as possible. So glad to do that. The last thing I wanted to share with you, so those are all resources provided by the California Career Resource Network. But knowing that you wouldn't be overwhelmed enough in the morning of financial literacy, I wanted to be sure that you also know. So so financial literacy is of great interest to the state superintendent. He's been working with a variety of entities to promote financial literacy as something that should be taking place across the K-12 experience of students. And so he's been working to provide resources. And then what the department provides, if you just go to the Department of Education website and just search for financial literacy, it'll come up with a variety of options and take you to this page. So lots of additional resources. Some of you may have heard of, some may be new to you, for resources for distance learning types of work, foundations, content standards. That's interesting. So it's the foundations of financial literacy as opposed to money foundations. I'm not in the site often, so so all of the standards as they're related and frameworks and national standards. So the underpinnings of financial literacy education, curriculum support with other tools and resources, and then direct content to share with students and families. I know Lance talked a little bit, or maybe talked about not quite having something, but we kind of talked a little bit around the edges of gamification of resources for students to engage them in interactive activities. And so this could be something that's worth taking a look at if you're looking for an app or a game that engages students in learning more about finances, and then opportunities for you all if you wanted to dig deeper into enhancing your financial literacy skills. So that's what this Department of Education website is about. Just lots more resources, which I'm sure after a morning of learning about resources, the first thing you're going to do this afternoon is go look for more resources, right? But I think it's helpful to know that there are tools, there is interest from the state level to provide tools to you all and direct you towards free. And I think in our case, we tried to make them easily accessible tools for you to access and use. So that's what I wanted to provide about financial literacy for the day on behalf of the California Career Resource Network. So I think since we were kind of focused on financial literacy, it's kind of a record-breaking shortness of a workshop for me. As you know, usually there's more to cover. It takes more time. But open to any questions. Again, please do feel free to email me. I know showing multiple sites with multiple focuses can get challenging to keep straight in the head, but just know that these resources are freely available, don't require any particular kinds of contract at all, or even be officially within your district, but just available to make use and implement with students.
Well, I think it's exactly what we wanted. What I wanted is everyone to leave today, like you said, not necessarily that they're doing this here later on today or tomorrow, but I wanted them to have their toolbox filled with more resources than they'd ever really possibly want, but at least so that they're all there and we know that these resources are coming from great sources and ones that are really tried and true with students. So that's exactly what you did. So I appreciate it, and I think we can have you come back perhaps and dive into the career exploration components of the resources that you have, but that was perfect. I think everyone would agree, and we're getting some thumbs up in the chat and positive feedback there. So thank you for going through it. I like how you walked through everything and really gave us some things that Monday morning people can run back to school and click on everything. I know I had like a million tabs open and I was clicking on things as well. And I'm excited to go through some of the screens that I have open. So thank you. Thank you all for being here to join us. It is the last Saturday within this session. So I'm going to put the resources organizer, if I still have it copied there. So I put that in there so that you can see, like you said, I will vouch for that, that if you email John, he'll get back to you right away. And he's super helpful with that, and definitely a library of resources. So thank you all. Please grab that chat, do that feedback survey for us. Thanks for joining in. For those of you that went, we should have printed a list, maybe we will, of the people that came to all 5 of our sessions within the Transitions Institute. But like I said, they will be on MyPLN. If you go right now and look on MyPLN, it will not be in there. We are working on it. And we needed the recording from today in order to put that into MyPLN. But check this week and you'll be able to see it in there. And if you missed any of them, you can watch those recordings. You can get the certificates from them. There was no need to sign in today. We run the attendance report. So if you're wondering about that, don't worry. We have the attendance report to keep track of who attended today. Well, thank you.
Yes, and I echo the thank you for today's presentation. I am always up for another refresher on all of the different sites and links and resources. And so really appreciate your time. And thank you to all of you who are here participating on your Saturdays. You know, we just really hope that we have empowered you to support our students and serve as sort of the experts in this field, so that you can go back and share your knowledge with the teachers and staff at your sites. So thank you to those of you who took your Saturdays and participated and really just enhanced the knowledge base for those of us doing this great work with students. So have a great weekend, everyone. Please just give everything a couple of days to get into MyPLN because it won't happen overnight. And then feel free to email us with questions if you don't see anything in about a week or so. So yes, and I did hear it's very nice outside. I haven't been out yet, but I guess enjoy the nice weather that apparently we're having. So thank you. All right, Anne, you're the host, so you get to officially end the meeting.
All right, goodbye everyone. Have a great weekend and happy Mother's Day, moms. Bye.
Bye.